So hi everyone. So last time that we met, I told you about me and my group of friends in the solar system. So Sun, Mercury, Venus, little Earth and the Moon, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and last guy in the entire system is Pluto. I am updating very frequently, so probably you can check out all my friends in the YouTube channel that I have posted. So if you have any doubts, you can go back and see. You can also hear a lot of questions that you have asked in the previous times. So we were last time in Saturn. So when Saturn, we were looking around the moons, what are their names, what was the last person to visit one of these moons, and what is the name of that spacecraft. That's what we saw last time. So that episode was called, does any of the Saturn moons have water? So we looked around, we found that Enceladus would be the right candidate, and we found a lot of streams of water coming out from Enceladus, and this gave us the question. So we saw everything from the front side of Saturn. So because there is a ring around Saturn, so we can go around the ring and see the other side. So that is called the dark side. What is there on the dark side of the Saturn, or the far side of the Saturn? So that is what we are going to ask Saturn today, and he is going to tell us in today's episode what is on the far side of the Saturn. So what is there? So there are many things to name, but first, by the nature, Saturn itself is not at one particular axis. It is tilting and turning every few years. So somewhere exactly around 9.5 years to 10 years once it tilts in its axis. So it is right now going flat, and then it turns and looks at the sun. So it has a lot of shadow on the other side of the Saturn. So that time we have the opportunity to see all the kuti small moons. So the bigger moons we know, Titan, Enceladus, Iapetus and Thetis. But these small moons like Pan, Atlas, Telesto, all these very small moons, these are all named from the Greek gods and goddesses' sons and daughters. So all these guys are floating in between the rings of Saturn. But only when there is a different sunrise and sunset in Saturn, we can able to see these small moons. So we are going to look even deeper, and we are going to say what is the best way to see the dark side. So we have to use a different kind of instrument to see that. So we are going to use a infrared camera to see all these things. So this is Titan. So Titan, it is yellowish in color. It is filled with a lot of methane gas. So methane is not very easy to see, so it is very thick in color. So what they do, they send an infrared camera to penetrate deep and check into it. So they found lot of interesting things. They found lot of clouds there, they found lot of mountains, they found lot of rivers in there. All this is happening in the future, and there is a lot of methane. So if you go and put a pump there and pump all the methane, you can fill up a lot of your LPG gas stove. So you know what is there in LPG gas stove? Anybody?
Methane.
No, not a completely methane, but there is a small percentage of methane. You know why? Why methane is needed? Okay. What is there when you burp? What kind of gas is coming out through your mouth?
Oh.
No, from your stomach it is coming. Oxygen cannot come from your stomach.
Hydrogen.
No, not nitrogen. Nitrogen is not reactive, so it doesn't react with anything.
Hydrogen.
Not so much so. There is an hydrocarbon. We can call it as hydrogen and carbon. That is the very smelly gas.
Carbon dioxide.
No, there is very trace of carbon dioxide, but there is a hydrocarbon. It's a hydrocarbon. So it is methane. So when you burp something, you have a very small trace of methane. So this is a very smelly gas that is filled in entire of Titan's atmosphere. So what they did, they found a big infrared camera and they penetrated and saw all these features in the surface of Titan. So next time when someone does that, if you say bless you or anything, then you are seeing that you are blessing the methane gas coming out of their mouth. So that is also filled in very small quantity inside your LPG gas stove. So that's why you can able to smell it a little bit. So this is how it looks. So they named each features. So Senkyo, Belet, Thekshis, Fencel, all these things were named after an important features in the Greek mythological story. It is called Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. So from there they took a lot of names and they named it. And with that they were able to see that it was filled with lot of surfaces irregularities. So there are mountains, there are valleys, there are rivers flowing with methane, everything is there in Titan. So all these things are seen from the dark side when there is no sun. So what happens? There are also big sand dunes. So all these sand dunes look like cat scratch. So when you go to desert, have anyone gone to desert? Not eating desert.
I have went to a desert when I was very small, sir.
Very small. Okay. So in Tamil it is called Palaivanam. So it's a sandy area which is filled with yellow or orangey sand. So it's very soft. So what happens when wind blows, it creates a kind of dunes. These dunes are also found in Mars, in Thar desert in India, in Sahara desert in Africa. Lot of deserts are there in across the world. So there forms a very big kind of sand dunes. They found a lot of this even in Titan. And all these things created a unique opportunity for finding sharp objects. So some have craters, some had valleys, all these things were looking, and they were in the size of a very big country or a state. So they found it even as big as a state of Britain. So this we are not sure, but it looks like a very highly reflective water body or a methane body. So they took a picture of it from Cassini. So now the entire surface of Titan, and what you can see is, you can see a lot of features with all the dark and white spots. So the complete surface is filled with lot of methane. Now we are from Titan, we are moving a little back. So from Titan's atmosphere, how does it look? It has got a lot of geometrical shapes. It has got a lot of haze from the previous photographs that was taken. So we saw Cassini and Huygens is the one which is taking photographs in the year 2007 till 2017 or somewhere around that time. After that they sent Cassini into the deep mission into Saturn's atmosphere, and it got burnt. But all these times it was taking all the photographs of the weather condition, how it is, how cold it is, how dark it is, all these things it was doing. And with that they were able to find a lot of similarities with what is present in the Earth, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and all combined. So now we know, but because we live in Earth and we breathe in a lot of oxygen and we bring out carbon dioxide, we know that certain proportions of us need some kind of things to live. That is, humans to live, we need oxygen. But what do you need for plants? What do plants breathe in? What do plants
Carbon dioxide.
So plant breathes carbon dioxide, and they change that into lot of carbon based foods. They called it as proteins and carbohydrates. So those things that are needed for them to survive happens through, it's a process called photosynthesis. So when there is a natural element of carbon, something like a plant which takes in lot of sunlight and which brings in lot of carbon dioxide, there is an obvious output of more oxygen, and that is called greenhouse effect. So when you eat, you go for one bathroom and two bathroom, so that comes out in the one direction. But when plants eat, they don't give waste, they give energy. So they give oxygen as energy and they convert it into proteins, carbohydrates, and other starch. So in Titan also they found lot of carbohydrates and protein based elements. So they found methane, ethane, hydrochlorides, nitrogen, nitrogen sulfides, oxides, chlorides, all these things that you can see in a very good plant-based system. They found it entirely covered in the atmosphere of Titan. So they found if you wanted to go and relocate to another planet or another space-based adventure, you have to better go and settle in Titan. So Titan has very good atmosphere for us to go and settle there. So that became their understanding. So what happens when you go after behind that in further direction of the dark side? So when you go, this is called a trajectory. So trajectory is something like when you throw a ball, it has to go in a certain direction, and after that when gravity acts on it, it will fall down back into the earth. So similarly, there is a very big ball in the shape of a planet called Saturn. So Saturn, when you throw the Cassini spacecraft at it, it has to fall on that with the gravity. So what they did, they made sure that it falls on the back side and it keeps rotating for a very few times before all the engine fuels dry out. So they made sure this, and through that they were able to observe the other side of the Saturn. So they were able to find a very small objects. Even very small moons of Saturn was found in such a way. So after that they were able to say they can start taking pictures in the distance where there is an axis. I told you about how thin the disk of Saturn is. Can anyone tell me how thick it is? Or the rings of Saturn, how thick? Any guess? No? Okay. So it is somewhere around
7,000 kilometers.
No, that is yeah, it is, yeah, correct. It is like a thread. It is like a thread, exactly. It is like a thread to the entire circumference. So compared to the size of the entire planet of Saturn, it is like I told you, it can take around one end to another end. You can take around 12 or 12 or so Earths. But for that entire ring, it is just 1 kilometer. So you put one stack of building above one building, so it will only take 3 buildings top of that to fill the entire ring system. So very thin line. So it's like a thread around the entire planet. So for that to be photographed, we have to be in the exact angle for that to be in the sun's direction. So that's what happened when you went there on 2004 and 2007. So they were able to take a lot of complicated shapes, and I told you about how the rings were always forming, joining, and they were disengaging all the time. So they were able to take a lot of complicated photographs of the rings, and they were also able to find small peaks. There were also a lot of peaks in there in between the rings, and they were forming and they were all dissolving at a very rapid pace. So these small lines are peaks that are around just about 300-400 meters tall, and once there is another ice that is coming and hitting on it, it will fall down and it will also form the ring again. So this was happening very constantly. So all these things, so this is from the other side. So when you go the other side, if the sun goes on the dark side, this is how the planet Saturn looks like. So all the other invisible rings, so all the F and G rings on the end of the Saturn can be seen only if the entire sun is shadowed. So this is called occlusion. So this is a term in which we call the dark side, or we can call it in Earth, we can call it as eclipse. So this is called lunar eclipse when the moon is in between. So this happens very less time for a planet that is as big as Saturn, because there is no object as big as Saturn next to the other planet. So I will explain about what is the importance of having a solar eclipse in the next few episodes, because it is a very natural phenomenon. We are going to have an eclipse solar eclipse in December 14th of 2020. This is going to happen in Brazil, not in India. So we are going to explore that theme also. So I'll tell you that. Before that, all these things were happening simultaneously across the space of Saturn, and we were able to see all the very small rings of Saturn. So I told you A to E ring is very visible. So but the E ring and farther rings are very very wide, and all these things till the E ring you have to take very very minute photographs of the dark side to see all the beauty of the Saturn. So I told you about very tall peaks, some kilometer long peaks that are there in the B ring. So B ring is here, it's in the middle of A and C ring. So these are all peaks, so you can see shadows. So these 25-kilometer high peaks will form as shadows on the ring itself after some time. It's like when you are going and standing in the sun, at around 12 o'clock the shadow will be on your bottom, but when you go and stand it on 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, the shadow will be behind you and in front of you, correct? So like that you have to see the peaks in the rings. So very thin disc, just 1 kilometer disc, but 25-kilometer tall peaks are there in the Saturn. So very very small moon. So this is tilting of the axis. So over a period of 2 years they were able to find all these shapes. So again after another 2 years it will tilt back again to the another axis. So constantly the Cassini spacecraft was moving around, and in every direction they were trying to photograph the same point of the moon. So first they are tracking Janus moon. So Janus was captured, and after that they were finding Epimetheus, Pandora, Prometheus. All these things were slowly coming up, and one point of time this just very small line was there. So it was dancing. So Saturn was dancing in its own orbit. So now we are coming almost to the back side of Saturn. So moon was very excited. So where are we going next? So we started, off we go. From there we reached on Uranus. So moon wants to know why it is tilted. So the first question we are going to ask next week is, why is Uranus tilted by its side? So what did we saw today? We saw all the reason for the dark places in Saturn. Why is it all filled with thick clouds in the moons of Saturn? What is on the whatever happens on the dark side, which results in seeing all these small moons of Saturn. We also saw this. So, yes, Kanama, you are asking some question.
What is well about the desert sun?
What did I tell about desert? Okay, so see, when you are standing in the desert, there is lot of winds that is coming into your direction. Okay, so if you stand in the same space for a very long time, what will happen? The sand will shift across your leg. So the sand will go away from you. So this is called a dune, sand dune. So what happens? You will slowly sink to the bottom of the sand. You will go down. Like that you will go down. This is called sand dune.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you ask questions, sir?
Me? Okay. What is the process that I told you about the plants taking in carbon dioxide and giving out oxygen?
Photosynthesis.
No,
Photosynthesis.
very good. Okay. So what about us? What do we do? What do we take?
We take in oxygen
Take oxygen
and give out carbon dioxide.
Okay, super. Okay.
Given carbon dioxide.
You are very active, so you have to wait for your turn to answer. Okay, just 1 second. I'll ask some other question. Can you tell me 3 moons of Saturn?
Titan, Rhea, and Nemo.
Titan, What is the
Actually
universe?
does.
What is the universe made of?
What is universe made of? Kanma, there is a very big question. Universe is uh, mostly made up of empty space, and this empty space we don't know. We call it as dark matter. But apart from that, it is made up of few other things. That is mostly stars, planets,
Is Pluto a
comets.
gas planet?
No, no,
What is made
Pluto is
of?
not a gas planet.
Sir, can you name out
Can you name the? Okay,
what is made of microscope?
wait. I'll tell you. But someone asked me what is the
What is made of? What is made of genus?
what is made of Venus.
Mondays.
Venus. Venus is made up of um, not completely, but it is filled with sulfuric acid on the atmosphere. So a lot of sulfuric acid is there in the atmosphere. So it is supposed to be very very hot. So a lot of sulfur gas is there. So it is a very thick
So
atmosphere.
can you send a photo of the moons of the
Saturn.
Saturn?
Yeah, sure. I'll send it. Cool. I'll send it.
Why is Uranus turned?
Why is Uranus? Why is Uranus turned?
Why is
I will tell you next week, not this week. Uranus subject questions will come next week.
Will Saturn lose its rings?
what is Uranus is filled by?
Uranus is filled by, okay. It is predominantly filled by hydrogen, and in the traces it also contains other gases, other noble gases, and mostly gases. In it is its core is made up of unknown material, because we don't know why perfectly it is filled with any solid matter, but it can be said that some very very long time ago there was a, how do you say, there was a very big incident that happened in Uranus that made it to be like that way. I will tell about that incident next week. What happened in Uranus next week?
Is Mercury bigger or Pluto bigger?
Uh, Comparatively, I think Pluto is slightly bigger. Mercury is pretty small.
Then why it is a planet, sir?
That is a very good reason, because the the objective reason for them to be classified is it has to have its own orbit, it has to have its own atmosphere, it has to have a periodic rotation across a very big body. What happens is uh, Pluto, and there is another planetary system called Styx. It's a very close uh, moon of Pluto, which is about 3/4 the size of Pluto, because they both are going merry-go-round across the same time. So what they found is, but it is slightly far apart. It doesn't have a central axis of rotation. So what happens is, these two planetary bodies, that is Styx and Pluto, are going around in an orbital axis, and they are both dancing across for uh, 300 and something years. I don't know what is the entire orbital period of Pluto. So some for 300 and so years it is going across the sun, and through which it doesn't have an actual orbit. So it is crossing paths in between Uranus and Neptune at one point of time, because it is not going in straight axis, it is going in a tilted axis. So every other planet is going like this, Pluto and the Styx is going like this. So it is going like this, it is dabbing all the time.
Why the Earth is round, planet is flat?
I'm hearing one more than one question. One person. What is?
Why the Earth is round, but when we walk, the for us it's very straight only, no?
Okay. How am I going to explain parallax to a 4-year-old kid? Interesting.
She is not 4 years, sir.
How old is she?
7 years.
7 years. Okay.
7.
Okay. Okay, Kanama. I'll give you an experiment. Okay.
You said it already, no, sir.
I told her, but I don't know if she can remember it. You take a one rupee or 2 rupee coin and keep it in front of you. Okay. Keep it in about arm's length from you, and you have to throw your hand to the back, and you have to touch the center of that coin. Okay. Doing and touch. You have to touch that coin center. You have to do it with both your eyes open. Okay. After 1, 2, 3 times, you will able to touch it easily. But if you close one of your eyes and if you start moving your hand from the back and touch the center, your hand will shake. Try to find the center of the line. Okay. You don't do it now. Okay. When this class is over, after that you take that coin and keep it in front of you in a table, and you do it after that. Throw your hand 3-4 times and try touching the center of the coin. This is called parallax. Because your hand is creating a curve that is not known to you. You are thinking that your hand is only in reference to your straight line of view. But if you think Earth is so big, but for us to see the entire curve, we have to be very, very far. So it is like asking someone to stand in the side of your hand and asking them to see whether your hand is straight or whether your hand is curved, like that. So if you travel some 30,000 kilometers out into the sky and then you see the Earth, then only you can see the entire size of the Earth, that it is round. Until that time, it is only straight.
Thank you.
Okay. Or you can ask one thing. You can ask a very small friend of yours. So what you do? You put a ball. Okay. It's a very tough experiment. Okay. If you find an ant, very, very small ant, put that ant on top of that ball and start rotating that ball. Whatever it do, it will only go in straight line. It will not go left turn, right turn, U-turn and all. It will not do. It will continue walking straight only until you turn that ball. It will keep walking straight only. It will not stop and turn. If it stops and turns, it will know that it is not in the straight surface. So after what it does, I told you about that facts about ant, right? They live in a very tropical forest for a very big family, like that. Every time ant travels, it tries to remember its surface. So for it, when it is standing on top of a small rubber ball, for it the entire world is only that rubber ball. So it will look at a very far distance and say, I want to go there. So it starts walking on the surface of the ball, and whatever it do, it will only walk like a treadmill. So it will keep walking and walking and walking and walking, and it will go only straight line only. So if it stops and turns around, then it will know that something is wrong with the bottom. So then only it will know that it is not standing on the earth, it is standing on a ball. So like that, if you go very far out, then only you can see that ball. So for you, you are like a very small ant on top of a ball. So you have to take that ant and throw it into the sky 30,000 kilometers, then only it will see that how big the world is. Any other questions? I heard a lot of questions, but now everybody is very quiet. Have you? Yeah.
Yes. No, Abhi. Yeah, continue.
No. I was just. Have you all gone silent? That is what I was supposed to ask. Nothing.
Okay.
Sir,
Yes, someone is asking, sir.
sir,
Yes, sir.
sir, can you send the before classes videos, sir?
Yeah, I will send it. Shilpa ma'am, I think you can share the playlist.
Vichita, I have already posted in the group. I'll resend it again. I will resend it again.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, I've already posted. I'll send it again. And Abhi, at 6:30,
Yes, ma'am.
we have a storytelling session, Abhi.
Oh, okay, super. Very good.
Okay, so
I'm very fond of
yeah,
stories.
thank you. Okay. So, children, whatever questions you have, you can post it in the group and I can send it to Abhi sir in person. Okay. So that questions will be answered in the next session. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, children. Thank you. So, whoever there in the storytelling session, you can have a break now and you can rejoin at 6:30. Okay. Yes, Abhi. Yeah. Thank you, Abhi.